So, spoiler alert. I'm going to talk about the new Spider-Man movie. If you haven't seen it yet, shut it off. Shut it off. Not too much spoiler, but a little bit of spoiler. So, normally I'm in my car, but today I'm not. I was thinking the other day I should change this to Kay healing out loud in her car. Because I cannot tell you how many countless hours of tears, prayers, screaming, laughing, call it what you want, have happened in my car. My car has seen a lot. So just changing it up today. Spider-Man movie. It is awesome. Go see it if you haven't. I want to specifically talk about, and of course, as I always relate my movies to narcissism, narcissistic abuse, etc. Let's call this one what's real and what's not. So there's this wonderful scene. Well, first this is the spoiler. We get introduced to Jean Grey. And if you know Jean Grey of X-Men form, you know what I'm talking about. So basically Jean Grey is like a level 5 telepath. So like she's one of the highest levels of telepaths. And so in this movie, she's trying to find her sister. So she is literally hopping into people and making them do things that they wouldn't normally do. Like she's literally hops into this old woman. Homegirl is driving a tank down the street. The bottom line is she's trying to get to her sister, who also has telepathic abilities that we learn about in the movie. And her sister was taken, and she's like hell bent on, I will do anything, use anyone by any means necessary to get to my sister. And so basically Spider-Man is trying to protect MJ. Now, if you remember from No Way Home, they don't remember Peter. MJ doesn't remember Peter. His best friend doesn't remember Peter. Like, you know. And so he's trying to protect her. So he goes, he convinces her that she needs to come with him. She believes him. She comes with him, and he takes her to this high rooftop, you know, I guess to try to explain, to try to protect her, because what we learn is that Jean Grey has a certain jump radius of where she can jump into people and where she can't jump into people. So she has to be a certain distance in order to jump into people and control them. Also, while in there, because she's a telepath, she knows your thoughts, she knows your history, she can look back at your childhood, so she knows everything about you. And so Peter's trying to explain to MJ, like, here's what's going on, this is why. And then all of a sudden, she goes, wait a minute. I knew you looked familiar. I think I remember you. You weren't just at the park. Weren't you at the bakery? And then she starts to go hug him. She's like, Peter. And Peter, like, he gets so emotional. He hugs her. He's like, oh my God, I missed you so much. I've wanted to tell you. I'm like, she just opened up his whole soul. And he's like, you know, I don't know how this happened. And then homegirl is like, psych. Like, so basically somehow she got into MJ. Jean Grey got into MJ, and she's like mocking him, like mocking his pain, like, because she has all her thoughts, which is why she was able to say all the things that she said. Child, I thought it was MJ. I'm all happy I'm in the movie. Like, yes. I was like, this is great. Somehow she remembers. All is going to work out fine. The movie theaters believe in it. And then that moment where she shifts, it's like, damn. And it was like, and he's looking at her like, how could you do that to me? Like, it's because it's so cruel the way she does it. But it was about her getting in that moment, it was about her getting the rise out of him that she needed. So then she like is still in MJ, leaps off the roof in MJ's body. And of course, Peter dives after her to save her, so on and so forth, you know, and then she comes back. But I say all that to say, let's talk about what's real and what's not. One of the hardest things to accept when you're in a narcissistic relationship or you're recovering from one is that the person you initially met never existed. I'm going to say it again. for the people in the back. The person you initially met, the charming, the this, the that, the open door, like, they didn't really exist. For example, my ex used to always walk on the outside of the street, no matter what. He walked on the outside of the street. If somehow I ended up on the outside of the street, he would very gingerly and gently move me to the other side, like wouldn't even break conversation. But I never walked on the outside of the street. I never paid a bill for lunch. I never opened a door. There was just many things that just, weren't allowed to do. And so you start believing like this is who this person is. You start getting protector vibes. And you think among all the other wonderful things that they do, you think you found the one. And so throughout our dating life, not only did he do that, but he would always bring me home. He lived in one borough that was far, and I lived in another borough that was far. And it didn't matter what time our date ended, he always brought me to my door. It didn't matter how much I begged, pleaded, argued. We had some late night dates sometimes, and I would be like, just go home. Like, I'll call you on the train. I'll call you as I'm walking. He insisted. We dated for 1.5 years before we got engaged, and then we were engaged for about 5 or 6 months, more like 5. And so this is what I'm used to for the whole 1.5 years that we dated. And then I remember we bought our first house after we got married. I ended up switching shifts at a hotel I worked at, and I had to be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning, which means I needed to be walking to the train by about 4:30. And I remember asking him, like, hey, you know what? I'm a little nervous. It's a new neighborhood. Would you mind walking me to the train? Because I just, it's just real early. When I tell you that dude looked at me like I asked him for $1 million in nickels and dimes, he literally was like, walk you? Why would I walk you to the train that early? Like I had the unmitigated gall to ask him to do something he had already been doing for an entire 1.5 years. And I just remember being confused, like just completely not mad, not angry, just like, huh? Like immediately thinking like, did I like head scratching? Did I miss something? And I was trying to figure out what changed from when we were dating and I was your girlfriend and I couldn't go home at 11 o'clock at night with thousands of people on the street in Manhattan. But for some reason, now that we've moved to this area where nobody's going to be in the street and I'm your wife with your last name, now it's fine for me to walk to the train at 4. It's real confusing. And so I think one of the hardest pills to swallow is that the person you met in the beginning didn't exist. And you have to sit with that for a while. And I say that to say, because I even asked my ex at one point, we were almost at the 10-year mark, and I said, you know what, why did you do all of those things that you did if you never intended to continue any of them? Not even a look, just any of them, because I'm talking cold turkey. And he, with the straightest face, looked at me and said, you wouldn't have married me if I didn't do those things. And with the face I'm looking at you right now, that's how he looked at me and said it. And I still didn't leave. But I say that to say I had to, by the time we got a divorce, I really did understand that. It still took me a few years after the divorce to really accept, like, that person didn't exist, because you'll get caught in this loop of continually trying to get that person back. Because at this point, they've also convinced you that the reason you're not getting that person is your fault. It's because you didn't do this. You didn't make enough money. You don't do this. You're not this enough. You're not enough. That was my other video. The whole you're not enough. You're now so convinced that the problem is you start thinking, I can do something to get back to that person, but you can't get back to a person that didn't exist in the first place. That person existed as a means to an end. That person existed to get something from you. That person existed to get you. So that brings me to my second point of words and actions have to match. And that took longer to get. That sounds so simple and so logical, and you could almost be like, what the hell was wrong with you? Did you? But sometimes their words are so powerful. Like with MJ, she was saying, well, Jean Grey acting, she was saying everything that Peter wanted and needed to hear. It was convincing. It was beautiful, but then she flipped, okay? And then literally jumped over the side of a building with MJ's body. And so the words can sound so nice. The words can sound so sweet. And I will never forget, my ex once said to me after we were divorced, we were going back, and he was like, Keysa, I love you, and you just need to communicate. And I was like, I was so triggered, because it was like there was nothing about his behavior during the divorce, post-divorce, that suggested any type of love. And I thought to myself, if this is what your love looks like, well, what does your hate look like? Because this, like, you be talking to me like we never had nothing. Like I never meant anything to you. And so anyway, side note, but it's just words and actions have to match. Now, I can't say I have a tried and true formula, like this is how you could tell when someone's being real, because like I said, they can be really, really convincing with their words. Pay attention. Always pay attention to their actions. Always pay attention to how they treat you. Always pay attention to how those words manifest in your interaction with them. I hope this helps someone in their grief journey, in their process of leaving, in their process of having already left. Words and actions have to match. Take the time you need to grieve the fact that the person you thought existed didn't exist. Sit with that for a minute. Love looks a certain way. And that's not to say that everybody shows love differently, but walking me to the train station for a year and a half and then looking at me like I had the audacity to walk you to the train station as your wife doesn't match. Hope this is helpful.